Hello, everyone, and welcome to my first ever NFL draft quarterback rankings, at least on YouTube. I thought with the draft coming up this Thursday, as well as it being a pretty stacked class of quarterbacks, that this was a perfect time to start doing this on YouTube. So, without further ado, let's get started. So this year we're going to go 1 to 10 just because I think number one's a consensus across the board. And my number one is Caleb Williams. So yeah, pick number one. I don't think it's much different than most rankings. I've seen a couple where another of these quarterback prospects was number one. But yeah, Caleb Williams is good. He did have that rough stretch, and I know we kind of did touch upon that in the Culz Sports Chat podcast. I think, though, once you watch the film and do remember that football is a team sport, I think the clarity of lack of talent in USC becomes a little clearer. One thing that I think people try to knock him on is ball protection, and he only threw 10 interceptions through the last 2 years. So, really not that bad to throw just 10 and 2. The one place that, yeah, I think he could maybe touch up on a little bit is the fumbling. But again, if Hero Ball isn't being played, because there's better talent around him in the NFL team than there was around him at USC, then I think that would cut down the situations that would put him where he was playing the hero ball and risking fumbles. The pros, I'm sure you're already aware of. Big arms, smart, great in the pocket, very patient in the pocket, and definitely great down the field eyes where he can scramble around but know where his receivers are going to be. Will he be the best rookie quarterback this year? It's possible, especially if he does go to Chicago, which seems like one of the better situations a rookie quarterback has ever stepped foot into. But let's go on to number two, which for me is Jaden Daniels. I know a lot of rankings have Drake May here, but I really like Daniels as a prospect. And honestly, I think he has a really high floor of what we can expect him doing in the NFL. Yes, I think a lot of people think of him as a really good rusher, which he is. He's fast, he's nimble, but he's actually a really good pocket passer as well. Honestly, when I watched film, I saw a lot of plays that were very similar to CJ Stroud. And I truly do believe that Daniels can probably have the best rookie season out of this class this year. He has clean fundamentals, and even with his ability to rush, it's something like 50% under pressure plays turned into passes, a little over. So it wasn't like he was just looks one way and then drops and rushes. He was still progressing through his reads. Where does he fit best? I don't know. It's kind of hard to say. Again, a lot of situational, but for me, I don't know. Something about New England and him feels right. It feels sort of similar, I guess, to the Houston dynamic. You have a new rookie head coach and this young rookie quarterback, and I think it could work well together. All right, so number three, and that is Bo Nix. And I know I can almost feel the Drake May supporters growing louder. But yeah, as a quarterback prospect and how I think he will translate this year to the NFL, I think I have Nix above May. A lot of people knock on him for his age, but he is experienced and he's actually gotten better each of his years, including obviously his last 2 years at Oregon. He has good anticipation, good mechanics, but he's also really good out of the pocket, which I think in today's NFL you got to be. Did he throw a lot of screens? Yes, but at the same time, I don't think he was drawing up all the plays. That was more the coaching, and he was just doing what he was asked to do. And I think if you put him in the right situation, say perhaps a Denver, which who knows now that they traded for Zach Wilson and debuted some terrible, terrible jerseys. But I think if he were to go to a Denver, I think that's a situation that he would probably do really well in. And I think his experience really helps us kind of see where his floor is going to be at. Let's bring us to number four. My number four is JJ McCarthy. And this one's definitely not my usual method of ranking. A lot of times I try to listen to that quote, potential will get you fired. McCarthy really wasn't asked to do a lot in Michigan, so it really kind of is guessing on potential here. But we can at least look at his mechanics. They are good. He is a good athlete and able to make the throw on the run. And when he was asked to do things, especially on third and long, those type of plays, he was able to perform and pick up the first down. Yes, he is raw. He really didn't throw for a lot of yards, but I think there is some potential. I'm hoping this is not the one that I get bid on as far as the rankings. But I think if you place him in, say, a Minnesota, definitely where you can sit back, learn for maybe half a year, be put in a quarterback friendly situation like that, he'll thrive and do well. All right, so number five. Now, my number five, and I promise I'm not just doing this for shock value. But yeah, next is Michael Penix. He does have some injury history. We saw that in Indiana. But since going to Washington, he's been healthy and been able to play. A lot of times for him, and what you see is he has a really pretty deep throw. And a lot of people, I think, kind of just worry about his intermediate midfield passes, that kind of stuff. At times he can have kind of a funky throwing motion. And another knock might be that he found just the perfect college environment. But I do think he has potential, much like any of these guys. If they get put in the right situation, they're going to do well. And I think pretty much through number six, everyone will probably start, maybe get multiple chances. But say, like a Michael Penix, he goes to Seattle with his college coach. I think it could turn out well. All right, number six, a lot of people's number two quarterback, and even a couple number one quarterbacks. My number six is Drake May. And I guess I'm just not as sold on May as a lot of other people, at least not out of the gate, like him going into the league this year. I think if he's placed in the wrong environment and expected to be that savior, that franchise savior, it could be very Trubisky esque. It could be very Zach Wilson esque, where it doesn't translate. Yes, he does have upside. He can make some really, really nice, like, wow throws. But when I've watched film, I've seen a ton of missed passes that should have been hit, overthrown, underthrown, off to the right, off to the left, as well as a really weird kind of drop back motion where he drops back, but then also moves a couple steps to the right or left and actually kind of creates his own pressure instead of kind of reading that pocket, maybe moving up a bit, or just kind of going back like you're supposed to and staying in that line. Some of the people do kind of say, hey, Jaden Daniels, he's going to take big hits, maybe Michael Penix. But watching the film, I think Drake May opened himself up to more big hits, especially in college. And when you get to the NFL, there's going to be a lot more big hits. So he's got to just retool some of his play style. Again, if you put him in a situation like Minnesota, let him sit for the half year that year and iron out those kinks, I think he'll be fine and he can do well. I just wouldn't try to draft him super early, like a 2 or 3, and just throw him into the fire. We've seen that a lot with young quarterbacks where it just doesn't work. And then you always hear like Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Loves, those type of quarterbacks where they get a sit, Patrick Mahomes. And they're always like, well, we should do that more. But no one ever is patient enough, especially in today's NFL. These people are coaching for their jobs, so they just want to get that prospect out there. But if he can sit, I think he'll be okay. And he might even move up past some of these other quarterbacks. All right, so number 7, Spencer Rattler. And he's this year's wild card for me. I see him going later, definitely like third or maybe fourth round. I think he has a lot of potential. Yes, in Oklahoma, he got replaced by Caleb Williams, but look where Caleb Williams ranked. And I think even after transferring and then ending up in South Carolina, he did progress and be able to iron out some of those concerns. He still had others playing the hero ball, but he was rushing under pressure some like 40% of plays and really not a lot of talent around him. So he was trying to do the most out of perhaps a bad situation. But he still has a really good arm. He's got a good completion percentage. One place I would be interested to see him end up is like the Rams and just see what he could do in the McVay offense. He would have great coaching, obviously by Sean McVay, great weapons, good offensive line. Matthew Stafford's still there, so he wouldn't have to start right away. Pressure's off. He could just learn, translate, and maybe perhaps he could be this year's draft steal. All right, so the final three, I have watched some film, but not as much as the previous seven. And really watching it, it could go either way. It kind of depends on your guys' like taste or style, where you guys are playing, what type of offenses. But the next three I really kind of see as backups, maybe high ranking backups, but not really the starters anymore, but still pretty good. Maybe number eight, Michael Pratt might get that shot to start. We'll find out. It depends where he goes. My number nine is going to be Joe Melton, and number 10 is Jordan Travis. Yeah, so there we go. My 2024 NFL Draft quarterback rankings. And I guess we shall all see how this plays out this weekend. Who gets drafted where? Do all 10 actually get drafted? Do any of the, bottom three perhaps fall out and go undrafted? And of course, in a few years, just how absolutely wrong or maybe shockingly right was I? At the end of the day, I don't think there's any guarantees. We've seen a lot of high valued quarterbacks just not pan out in the NFL. So it should be interesting. Best of luck to all these young guys getting drafted. An exciting time. We're definitely excited. Make sure to join us on Thursday for Culz Sports Chat. But until next time, for my next quarterback rankings or something, click that link to my left. Also, to the bottom left, click that Culz Sports Chat podcast playlist. Make sure to join us live and let's discuss all the first round draft picks. If you want more from us from Culz Paranormal, click that link to your right. And don't forget to hit that like and give us a subscribe. And let me know, what is your quarterback draft rankings? Tell us in the comments below.